Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as the next 48 hours do look like they're going to continue to be very cold for many areas. But as we head into the latter part of the weekend, into next week, it is going to be turning much warmer for all. And it does look like it's going to be turning fairly warm and summery as we head into the next working week. Temperatures could be back into the low 20s, and it does look pretty bone dry from the looks of the latest runs. Now, this is because high pressure is building back in over the top of us from the Azores, completely reversing that wind direction from a northerly to more of a southwesterly, making it look really quite pleasant. Eventually, easterly flow could arrive next week, could dampen conditions a little bit across the east coast, but for many, looking like a pretty stunning week next week after all the doom, gloom and cold that we have seen this week. We'll be able to have a look at that in detail in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy the videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if we start on the live radar, when it's around 10 PM, it looks fairly dry at the moment. But that's not the story of today. You see all these showers towards the southeast. This is convection taking place in the North Sea towards the Channel, and we saw lots of convection taking place across land earlier today, especially through the mid to late afternoon, especially through the Midlands into central, southern and eastern England. Saw lots of heavy showers. I even personally saw a hailstorm with thunder and lightning. So yeah, pretty severe out there in places. Not widespread, not everywhere seeing these really hefty thundery showers, but they are blowing through pretty frequently. And yeah, were pretty hefty in places. Other areas didn't see precipitation, didn't see these thundery showers, but it was cold for all. That was the kind of the big picture today. Without northerly wind, the wind chill making it feel like single digits for many. And of course, overnight tonight, we could see, with these clearer skies, with these drier conditions, more of a widespread frost for rural areas, especially northwards, but I wouldn't rule it out further southwards. With these cold, clear nights, temperatures can deviate by a few degrees from what the models do forecast. So in a minute we'll look at the UKV. Some areas that show 2 or 3 degrees could actually locally get down to freezing. So yeah, it could be a very cold night and very cold morning through Friday. Now, if you look generally at Europe, you can see snow is starting to fall over the Alps. Lots of heavy rain heading eastwards, and you can see where the extent of the cold air and the cold front is at the moment. And you can see even more distinctive here with the temperatures. Very cold for much of the British Isles. Much colder for Europe, where it was 30 to 35 degrees this time last week. And you can see the extent of the cold front sweeping just to the south of the Alps now towards the Balkans, Eastern Europe, and just about getting towards northern parts of Spain here. So yeah, very cold conditions, pretty ridiculous for this time of year. You can see on our latitude, really, much of North America still very warm and hot. Further eastwards, of course, across Eastern Asia, turning much colder inland. But we are one of the coldest places at the moment for our latitude. And yeah, pretty ridiculous cold plunge. Pretty much the coldest sort of temperatures we can see this time of year. It's kind of theoretically possible because, of course, early September, mid-September, the cold air isn't really there to see anything much colder than this. So yeah, it's difficult to emphasise how cold this air is for this time of year. But if you do now go over to the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and the temperatures over the coming days, you can see all those hefty showers clearing through this evening. And overnight tonight, we do see high pressure toppling in, which will cut off that northerly flow. So perhaps through Friday, less of a wind chill out there. But drier and clearer night means that we are going to see, as said, a higher chance of frost developing. As we head through Friday, because of those slack winds, again, it doesn't feel as cold, and we don't see anywhere near as many showers, still a few clouds popping up. As we progress in towards Saturday, you can see, again, cloud building in. This is a westerly flow, and it will be turning milder for all when this weak weather front does clear through. And for Sunday, yes, some rain, some cloud in places, but temperatures widely in the mid to high teens once again. And by Monday and into Tuesday, yes, some rain, some cloud in places, but you see it's clearing, turning drier as high pressure builds in, and it starts to look much more like summer again, as we see from the temperatures in a minute, could get into the low 20s for quite large portions of the British Isles. You can see the upper air temperatures, very cold, exceptionally cold for the time of year at the moment, and it's going to remain at this sort of temperature all the way through to Friday afternoon before it gets slowly swept away into Saturday. Much warmer air coming in for the weekend, really establishing itself through Saturday, so maybe not all areas on Saturday will be mild, but they'll definitely be on the upwards trend, and then it probably moves in for Sunday into Monday. And look at the warmth, the upper air temperatures around 15 to 20 degrees higher in some places. Pretty ridiculous indeed, that temperature shift, going from kind of the coldest possible upper air temperatures that we can see through September to some of the warmest. Again, possibility to maybe see 18, 19 this time of year. It's a possibility. So seeing 15, 16 here, we are near the top end. So from right at the bottom end of what we can see right to the top end in the space of about 3 days. And if you look at the surface temperatures, you'll be able to see that flip even more vividly. This afternoon, many areas struggling into the double digits, feeling colder than that. And you can see overnight tonight, many areas dropping down to kind of 2 to 7 degrees. And as I said, these areas that show 3 or 4 could, in rural areas, drop down even lower. So you could wake up to the morning, perhaps having to scrape a bit of ice off your windscreen. If you are up early. But as soon as the sun gets out, temperatures will rise, and you see by tomorrow afternoon more likely towards 15 to 17, and that's because the wind direction shifts, so not as much cold air is coming in from the north, and it generally does start to turn a little bit milder. As we head into Saturday, the risk of a little bit of frost in the far southeast. But for most, as we head into Saturday afternoon, temperatures in the mid to high teens, so much, much milder. Not only the actual temperatures will be milder, the feel like will be remarkable. The shift from a very cold northerly flow to more of a flat westerly is going to feel much, much more like early autumn or late summer than it has felt like winter this week, really. As we head into Sunday, again, you still could have a bit of a chilly night with some cold air still lingering, but into Sunday, more towards the high teens, maybe could touch 20 degrees, and then really into Monday, again, maybe touching 20, 21, and it's really into Tuesday. Look at that, up and down the country from northern and eastern Scotland up towards 21, to right towards southern England up towards 21 or 22. Just showing you that we're not automatically into autumn or kind of like wintry conditions just because we've had one cold snap. It is still mid-September. These sort of warm temperatures still are likely and still possible for the next month or so. So yeah, don't rule out these warmer temperatures. Yes, you might have had to turn your central heating on, might have had to get out the hat, gloves and a coat, but might be all going away next week as we're back into t-shirt weather with low 20s, so looking very nice indeed. And if you do look at the longer range runs, we can see the reason for this. We can see the very strong northerly flow at the moment. It is slowly getting cut off over the next 24 hours and eventually turning milder into the weekend. But it just turns more towards average through the weekend. It's really above average temperatures arrive into early next week. Look at that double-digit upper air temperatures, easterly flow, but it's a drier easterly flow. So yes, could be a few odd showers, but nowhere near as unsettled as we saw a couple of weeks ago, where it was a very similar setup, but we had that cut-off low to the south. No cut-off low or no major cut-off low here, so unlikely to see that real heavy thundery showers and heavy precipitation like we saw it's about a week ago now, 10 days ago, but by the time this moves through, it'll be a couple of weeks ago. Now beyond that, we maintain high pressure around, and it looks again pretty fine, warm. Eventually we do see a weak cut-off low developing, but really not expecting anything too major. For the longer range, we start to see a bit more of a mix of air masses, and that is pretty typical as we do start to see cold air building towards Greenland, and it does add fuel to the jet stream, so it is likely to have a little bit of an effect on how unsettled things could get. But again, that is for late September, well out of the near term. For the time being, next week looking much warmer and much drier, and generally a lot more positive for all. If you do compare to the GM now, again, northerly wind coming in at the moment, high pressure building in as we head into next week, and firmly sat over the top of us with a slack easterly flow, upper air temperatures above average, even upper air temperatures perhaps getting towards 15 degrees. And then if we do look at the surface temperatures, widely into the high teens or low 20s for much of next week. Could even see a 24 there next Thursday, Friday 21, 22. Yes, cooling down inevitably in the longer range, but still firmly high teens, low 20s all the way into the latter part of next week. So yeah, not only is it turning warmer, but it's going to be a sustained period of warmth and dry conditions for at least 5 or 6 days, maybe even longer. And finally, if we compare to the ECMWF, again, we'll look at the upper air temperature, here. Cold air at the moment, high pressure comes back in from the Azores, wind direction initially southwesterly, and then it reverts to an easterly. But look at that big wedge of warm air for next Wednesday, and it remains like that all the way towards day 10. The risk of maybe some low pressure undercutting, an extratropical system there perhaps undercutting the high pressure. But again, that's something to worry about in 5, 6, 7 days time. For the time being, very warm and very dry. And if we put on the accumulated precipitation, for example, here, you can see, although there is the chance of some rain, especially over the next couple of days, especially with a few showers through the weekend as we see the change in air mass. Beyond that, it looks generally dry. It looks like we could avoid much of it. Yeah, a bit more precipitation appearing here at day 10, but for the sort of 5, 6 days of next week, it looks really quite dry and really quite warm. And if you finish by looking at the ensembles, you see this well reflected, well below average, very cold over the next sort of 36 hours, back towards average for the weekend, and then we're back above average for about 3, 4, 5 days as we head into next week. Again, not ridiculously above average, but 2, 3, 4 degrees and very minimal precipitation. Beyond that, we do trend back towards average, again, inevitable, as the air masses do sort themselves out. But you can see there is a little bit of an uptick in precipitation, but really, for mid to late September, the outlook we've got is not bad at all. The only thing you could probably get this a little bit better than this is those upper air temperatures being a bit warmer, so more of a southerly tilt to the wind direction. That's the only real positive or real sort of improvement you can get on this forecast. It's looking optimum for next week for dry and warm conditions. You can see for the 2 meter temperatures, well below average at the moment, very cold, double digits just about in many areas, well up towards the 20s or low 20s for next week, and that looks like it could hang around all the way into perhaps the final week of September, where inevitably it is going to slowly cool down as we do lose that sun strength, lose daylight hours, and generally have those air masses starting to lose their warmth. And then finally, if we compare to the ECMWF ensembles, the midday run is only just coming out, but it goes out to about 10 days, and it shows exactly the same picture. Yes, day 10, a bit more precipitation appearing, but generally from now until then, we go average for the weekend, above average by a few degrees into next week, and remaining fairly dry for much of the working week. So very positive conditions, lots of flip-flopping going on with the weather at the moment, from very warm but wet last week with temperatures into the high 20s, but with lots of thunderstorms, to now very cold northerly flow to back towards a southerly or easterly flow next week with warm, dry conditions. It's all over the place. Again, it's not unexpected for these transition months. September is similar to sort of March, April, where they're transition months. You can see both very cold conditions and very warm conditions. And we're seeing all of it at the moment. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the drive, you new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.